We're live. Good afternoon, Sham. I've got a song for you. This is The Scientist by Coldplay.
That was lovely.
A little bit of Coldplay for you, Sham. So,
thank you.
My welcome to my show. And so, first off, why did you choose that song, sir?
I think it reflects on the journey that I've been through, really, and what the song actually means. I mean, you could take it both ways, but it's timing. You know, you go so far ahead in time that you forget how to enjoy the little nuances of people around you and how you interact. You forget how important those are, and it's replaying them back to your own self that wish I could turn back the time and go back to start again. And I think it's interesting that this song was actually recorded, but the lyrics were played backwards by the lead, and then they had to sync the lip sync. I don't know if anyone knew that, but that's,
right,
yeah, that's a whole about reflecting, going back to start from where you started, but in a different way. So I think, you know, that's why it reflects my journey as well to some degree, you know. So
no, brilliant. And this is why I start with a song every single show, because it's a great leveler, isn't it? It's a great leveler. So I actually played that song at a party where Chris Martin's dad was one of the guests.
Oh, you're lucky, you.
Yeah. And he came up to me afterwards and he said, "That was really good. My son wrote that song." So that's pretty cool. Anyway, Sham, tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
Yeah, I've effectively, you know, helping professional services companies, really, but my main sort of focus is helping people, is my main motto, really, in whatever capacity I can. That's either through health or professional services, whatever I offer, and that's my main motto going forward, is helping other people through connecting, really, and that's probably the reason why I'm here as well, how we met as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So first of all, then, I've got some LinkedIn questions. How long have you been on LinkedIn, sir?
I knew you were going to ask me that, but since 2010.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, but I think I've been using it more actively, I would say, on and off 2 years, but certainly in the last 3 to 4 months, very active, if I may say that, actually.
Yeah, no, it's. I think what lockdown did, it got us to think about other ways of connecting with people, because we couldn't go out, we couldn't travel, etc., etc. And so, like, oh, hang on a minute, we've got this untapped resource that we're not using.
Yeah,
and it's really come to the fore, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think the other platforms that I do use don't interact to the same engagement level, whereas LinkedIn, you have a common thread, which is you want to connect, of course, but you want to connect with the like-minded people, fellow travelers, as I call them, and then you do find them. And if they're not, they're still in your connection, and you can also enjoy that relationship developing over time. Whereas other social media have a very different way of communicating and connecting for different reasons. So that's how I see it, really.
Yeah, no, and it's but it's a lovely sort of place as well. I don't know if you follow Pete Can, the laughter man.
Yeah.
But he put a post up today about how lovely and warm and friendly people are on this platform, whereas he put a similar post on another platform, and he was getting, you know, haters on there, and you sort of like, that doesn't really happen on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think the key thing is on LinkedIn is a barrier to entry, isn't there? Because Instagram, anyone can join, Facebook, anyone. LinkedIn is people who have agenda, have a motive behind it from a professional point of view. It's different. You're not going to go there for marketing your product, your service potentially, or yourself as an individual, yes, or any knowledge you're trying to share. Whereas Instagram or any other social media platform have a different way of communicating it, really. So yeah, definitely, I agree.
Yeah, no, I like that. So do you use any of the other social media regularly, Sham?
I use Instagram just because I have sort of a passion for photography and like seeing pictures and developed and created on digital space. But I use Twitter for following with the news, because there's so many media outlets there. You don't know what to follow. It's just nice to get an idea. But I don't use it for connecting or networking. It's just more for personal consumption of information, really, and understanding what's going on.
It's another channel. We were just talking about you, Odessa. So you missed the song that Sham chose, and it was the same one that you chose. So what do you like about LinkedIn then, Sham?
Goes back to the original what I just said. Actually, I think it's a nice way of connecting, but I think people sometimes don't sort of probably use this angle, is that it's good to find information as well. It's really good articles there, some good links to, you know, LinkedIn courses, LinkedIn articles. There's a lot of information that which is being vetted out by people who are seasoned in their own professions and very niched in their area. For example, you can find people who can help you design a PowerPoint slide, and you know, you learn so much just from interacting there. Yeah, YouTube's good for that, for quick, but I find LinkedIn is a wealth of information that is very strategically driven for what you're looking for, and I find it, you know, no other platform offers all that networking of social, but also knowledge as well. So yeah, that's
You're loving LinkedIn, aren't you?
I am.
This is great. This is great. So, posting content then. So how often do you post your own content?
To be honest, I'm going to confess, I never used to do anything about 4 or 5 months ago. But I've been doing it regularly, once a week. I'm trying to get it to twice a week, but I just finding the time to do it is becoming more cumbersome. But I've got a list that I create to make sure I at least post once a week, really.
Oh, that's fantastic. So where'd you keep this list? Did you use software, or are you old school and you got a book?
I got an old school, and I got my yellow book with me.
Fantastic.
Every time I have an idea, if I'm traveling, I just write down a one-liner. So, and whenever I get a chance, I expand from that one-liner into a post, really.
Oh, fantastic.
Yet to do an article, but post definitely.
No, that's no worries. So tell me, you do it once a week. Is this as and when you think about it, or is it on a set day every week? What do you?
Yeah, I used to do it in the middle of the week, Wednesday, for some reason. I thought that would be the best time because everyone's past the Monday blues. They're thick into the Tuesday, and Wednesday's a bit more relaxed, looking to the weekend. But I'm doing it sort of once a week, either Wednesday or Thursday, really. But I think I don't find any days is better than the other, as long as you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And exactly what Odessa is saying. Doing something is always better than nothing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, right, you talk to people, they go, oh, I know I should post something, but they never do. It's always should. And what you're doing is you're doing it once a week. So by the end of the year, you've posted 52 times. You know, that's a serious amount of work for somebody to say, oh, I should do this. I should do this. So no, well done you. Well done you. And are you seeing results from that?
I think, yeah, it's some interesting, because I'm quite analytical and I've done some few tweaks on my post, gone back on it, and that's increased the engagement. But yeah, definitely, I think I'm getting more inbound communication from all sorts of walks of life, really. Someone who's non-related to my profession but wanted some just to talk out and reach out and connect. So yeah, I think it's very helpful by posting. But something, there's a bit of a nugget in terms of hashtags that I learned from you, Ash. So thanks for that tip.
No worries at all. So Odessa's actually shouting at us now. Look, just post. So there you go. You're doing your posting. You're connecting with people. You're chatting with people and stuff like that. Have you actually got any business yet as a result of your activity on LinkedIn?
I guess how I would define what business means to me is different for everyone, because I'm not procuring or selling a product, if that makes sense, but I'm actually getting the connections that are leading into meaningful conversations, which will lead into downstream commercial business, definitely, Ashley. But directly, I'm not reaching out for individuals as such, but there are entities that I'm looking for, which is happening over the last 3 or 4 months. Definitely has gone up. Yeah, so it's been very helpful if I can answer that
No,
question.
good. That's what we want to hear. And
Yeah.
the thing is, right, you see people doing stuff on social media, and "Well, I've done this and I've done that and I've got 6 figures and goodness knows what else," and they make it sound as if it happened overnight, and you can do this too, and it's not. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, isn't it?
It's getting, absolutely, it's getting credibility. You see, by actually engaging, you're getting credibility and trust is key. If they don't trust you, they're not going to be committed to talking to you. And I think when you overcome that barrier, you're posting every day, you're engaging them. I think that's helped, really, definitely.
Yeah, no, perfect, excellent. So tell us a little bit more about what you do and the people that you work with then in your line of work.
Yeah, so for the last 17 years, I've been helping a lot of the financial institutions in systemizing. So what I'm doing now is repivoting, helping small medium enterprises like professional services, helping them in their succession planning, really, in a nutshell. And that's part of like any other business planning they would do. Succession planning would fall into it. Why would it not? So I'm trying to help SMEs, especially lawyers, IFAs, and more importantly, accountancy professional services organizations, to make them their succession planning much better as part of their business planning.
And what sort of challenges do you see these businesses having then before you turn up?
I think the key thing is those accountants have grown their practices to a very good level, beyond the lifestyle business, but they're still fundamentally the most important pivotal point of the entity, is getting that mindset to shift, which will allow them to be not an impediment in the future generational growth, or the next 10 years or next 15 years, whatever time frame they want to allocate themselves to do. And I think that's overcoming that mindset is important. They've done very good for the last 10, 15, however long they've been in place as a practice, even it might be shorter than that, but it's twisting that mentality to vertically to make sure that they're ready for the future. I find that quite difficult, because implementing the solution once you know the problem is easy. It's actually working around that mindset shifting is more important, in my opinion.
So how do you go about that? Because that sounds interesting, complicated. Yeah, the challenge.
Yeah, I guess the question is asking the 5 why questions. What do they want out of their own, and asking that, drilling it down to the why as fine as you can get it, and then you go back to the level of how you can answer it, rather than saying this is what I've done, this is what I do. It may not work for them. It's to understand what their driving factor is for what they're looking to engage with you, and understanding why they want to do it is more important. Then you can understand how you can help them, rather than just going in straight in and explaining what we can do may not fit to their nature of what opportunity that they want to do. And I think that's key. I think most people may think there's a solution. There is, but it may not fit for you. You need to understand what you really need, and what your wants are, and what your whys are, and that will help, really. So that's the way I try to overcome in working with them.
So lots of talking, lots of questioning, and lots of understanding.
Yeah, it's understanding the as is, how they do things at the moment and what they want to do in the future, and that gap in between is where I change that mindset by understanding what we can provide for them as a succession planning. Absolutely.
Okay, so here's a question. When I set up my business, I'm not thinking about an exit. I'm just thinking about making a few quid, getting a few clients, or making a website, coming up with a logo, maybe getting a business card, or whatever else it is I'm going to do when I set up a business. So what's your advice for somebody setting up a business today then?
I think the key thing is to document. So put all your processes and procedures in place, even though it might be in a yellow book, really, from a starting point. It doesn't have to be absolutely, a squeaky clean system. It's just got to be documented somewhere and evolved over time. So as your business evolves, your systems, processes, and procedures evolve. And then underlying is leveraged through systemization of automation, which will help you to be better succession planning. And that's called business planning. It doesn't mean you're abdicating in the future, but you're planning for the future to grow. Because if you're not systemized, you're not accountable, I think it makes it harder in the longer term when you're actually looking to say, let's say you want to recruit someone. If you don't have an onboarding process of how you hire, how you advertise, you need to know that documented beforehand, so that it helps you to grow from it. It's never going to be perfect from day one, but its starting point is going to be important, really.
Yeah. Okay. And so I've been in my business a few years now, and I'm sort of like thinking, oh, the business is going all right. I maybe want to sell it one day. When do I start talking to you?
It's a good question. It's whenever, really. If you're looking to sell today, for example, as you engage, you're already too late, in my opinion. It should be at least a year to 2 years before, so that you've matured through that process. But some may be already matured through the process that we help in succession planning, and they're ready to exit. But as part of being my platform, we can cater for both needs, so they can grow with us, systemize with us, and then go into their next phase of transition, or they can transition to us and move off if they're already semi-systemized, in my opinion. So I think always is a good time, and we can work with them depending on what phase of that journey they're on, really.
And what's the typical sort of time that somebody would spend working out when they're going to, exit their business? Is it something that you advocate planning 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, next week? What's the ideal? If you're working with someone, right, this is the best way to do it, what would you suggest?
I think 2 years is a good time frame, depending on the size of the business, really, or the entity. That's important, because I think you've got to put the processes, the systems, and everything in place before in hand. But if you look at it on average, most practices, they do have a loosely way of working, but having that fine tune angle might take that extra 12 months to conquer that view, because you've got to be sellable to the outside world. Think of it the perspective of someone looking into your business. What's sellable? And if it's Sham or Ashley running the practice, for example, sorry, I'm picking on you, Ashley, if you remove them, what's left? If there's nothing left, and that's not sellable to the outside world, you've got to make yourself sellable enough. And I know people don't like using that word, but you understand what I mean. Is you've got to be showing off what you do really well as a USP, that people from the outside can see the value in enhancing from where you left from, really.
Yeah. That's so
planning does.
Well, if I was going to sell my business today, no one would buy it, because I'd leave, and that I am the business. Whereas if I was making pasties, for example, and I had a machine that made the pasties and a machine that chopped the potatoes to the right size, then I showed you how to use the machine, then you could make the pasties. You wouldn't need me.
All the ingredients, which is your IP. Yeah, absolutely.
That's I hadn't thought of that. It's all right. I'm not going to go into making pasties. It's fine.
But yeah, you've got the point. That's right. Actually, it's important to. So succession planning doesn't mean you're abdicating yourself. You're making your business more resilient for future capability and changes. Either you on the scene or off the scene or with somebody is irrelevant.
Yeah, no, that's I like that. I like that. So, what challenges do you have at the moment within your business?
I think the hardest thing is to have those conversations with the right people, the right gatekeeping, or the right owners, because no one wants to put their hand up that they need help in succession planning or business planning. I find asking for help has been the hardest challenge to overcome with people, because I may be wrong in my analysis, but that's so far I've engaged so many of practice owners. It's overcoming that barrier to put your hand up, say, to speak to someone. It's just like showing, it's showing your weakness and vulnerability. But I think that's the reason why we connect with each other is our vulnerability and our ups and downs helps us to connect with people, really, how I see it anyway. I think that's overcoming that barrier has been the hardest challenge. It still is, and it still will be, because you're dealing with, as they say, human to human.
Yeah, I've got a friend who's got an accountancy practice, and his idea is, I'll just let it go. And I went, no, just as the clients retire, I'll just and I no, that's, you need to sell it. So
yeah.
But it's stopping and thinking. So Odessa reckons I should go into the pasty business. But what she's saying here, right, is that there's far too businesses who actually consider succession planning. So it happens from anecdotes and what I see is sort of like, oh, I've had enough, I want to sell. And that's succession planning. And you're saying that we should think about it a lot sooner.
Yeah, I think I would call that exit planning. So they're just looking to fire exit really because they had enough or they've had a pain point that they can't overcome.
Yeah.
Whereas succession planning is you're consciously thinking about making sure the business is sellable and someone else can take the baton over and successfully grow it from where I left and repurpose and repivot whatever the strengths are within the practice or company to grow from. That's what succession planning is really.
Yeah, no, perfect.
Yeah.
So what do you do when you're not doing LinkedIn and you're not working? What does Sham do for fun?
Well, my son does a lot of cricket, so I'm doing a lot of cricket practice with him now. The season's open, but myself personally, you'll be surprised. I do a lot of Olympic lifting, and that translates into what I do in day to day. Really, it's a lot of repetitions again and again. But I started off as a health rehab and became more of a sport that I look to do for continue to do, and it's great fun. Not a lot of people do it because you need time and space to do it, but I really enjoy it really.
So you rock the bars and you do all that sort of stuff, do you?
Snatch, yeah, the clean and jerk, the movements that you're familiar with, the two main, but it's a very short movement, but the practice behind it for hours and minutes and reps you have to do is phenomenal, and the sequence is just like 0.2 of a second, but the amount of hours you have to put in is just phenomenal really, and that translates into what I do actually. The end result is just you see it, but the behind the scenes, the effort I put in is huge. That's how I translate it. Right?
Yeah, no, I love that. That's oh, well done. Who'd have known? So no arm wrestling with you then. I've got one more question. I've just Odessa's put something here. It's more than just finding someone to fill the role. So it's making sure that they know what they're doing. So I suppose you're keeping an eye out for talent as well then.
Yeah, always. I think there's a lack of, but the thing is, most of the businesses have, because they don't have an onboarding process of new talent, the talent lies within the practice itself. It's just they've never delegated the work for them to be promoted. So I find 8 out of 10, the staff within the team have enough acumen and understanding to promote from. So I always promote from within before going to the open market as a last resort. But yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, no, perfect. So before I do my last question, I'm just going to share. My next show is going to be with Luke Nethercliff. He does learning development. So I'm going to be having a chat with him. It won't be next week. It will be the week after. So we will be back in 2 weeks' time. But finally, then, your last question. What tip would you give your 16-year-old self?
Have no regrets. I think keep making sure any opportunity comes your way, make most of it and enjoy the process rather than just getting into it and forget about the process and just enjoying the end result. I think the end result is important, but enjoying the journey is more important, which I have failed to do, hence the song, The Scientist. So yeah, definitely enjoy the process.
Yeah, and when an opportunity comes along, like being live on a show on LinkedIn, jump at it rather than run away from it. Hey.
Yeah, this is my first, so thank you.
No. How was it?
Yeah, fantastic. Really enjoyed it. I think it's just like having a conversation with two people, really. So
absolutely. You can't see that we've got 752 million people watching, but that doesn't matter. It was just a good chat. It was a good chat. Sham, you've been delightful. Thank you to everyone for your wonderful comments, especially Odessa. Thank you very much. I will be back in 2 weeks' time, but yeah, thank you very much indeed. Cheerio.
Thank you, everyone.